Welcome back to another episode of Trench Talk, episode 7. If you're wondering, no, I'm not recording this week's episode on the sun. I'm actually on the porch of my apartment because I'm expecting some maintenance to be coming in soon. You might hear some AC outside, but that's just what we're going to have to roll with here when we preview week 1 of NFL football. Christian, my co-host, how you doing, man?
I'm tired.
Yeah.
Tired of waiting for football.
Oh, well, we had some good college games last week, but oh boy, am I ready for some NFL football. I'm not lying.
Ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-bum.
I'm more of a Fox guy, like a that might be CBS actually, but regardless, we got it coming in.
That's the one I am.
We got it coming in tonight, starting with the Chiefs and Ravens. We can start there. We can start wherever we're at. Thankfully, we can get news out of the way, NFL news out of the way, or we can talk games. What are you thinking, buddy?
Let's talk about the game tonight, and then we can go into some boring news stuff. I shouldn't say boring. Sorry.
I was going to say, not very boring for some people in there.
Yeah.
But
some people had some interesting weeks.
But yeah, that game tonight, we got Chiefs-Ravens. I think arguably a better not arguably, definitely a better season opener than last year's, which was Chiefs and Lions. Everyone remembers the Chiefs lost at home to the Lions to open the season, but
it was pretty good.
It was a good game. But me personally, I don't really think that's how it's gonna go this week for the Chiefs.
No, I could see this going like one of two ways. This could either be like a repeat of last year, where it's high offenses that don't really score, that aren't scoring a lot in week 1, or it's just going to be a shootout. Could go into overtime. Could be just the greatest opening game we've ever seen.
See, I don't think that's going to happen. Me personally, I think, Chiefs are probably going to win this one. I have all my bets really on the Chiefs. Don't get me wrong. I think the Ravens are going to perform nonetheless. They got Derrick Henry, their defense stays the same other than really they lost their defense coordinator, which I think is a big loss that people aren't taking into account. Their guy, I'm blanking on his name, but went and is now the head coach of Seattle. So, I think their defense looks a little bit different. And, maybe they've learned what they should have done in the AFC Championship game last year, which is just run the ball. And when you have Derrick Henry now, I think that's going to be a lot easier.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm too sold on Derrick Henry. He's getting old. He's dealt with some injuries, and I think the Ravens is a good place for him to get good touches, get good yardage, but I don't think he's going to be their whole game plan, and I think that's kind of what he's thrived on in the past. So I could still see him working out, doing some good things, but I don't think he's going to be the game changer. I think it is going to be the defenses.
Yeah, I mean, I think the yards are probably going to be up, but you really you have to think about, Derrick Henry coming in. He was still a great rusher last year behind a not great Titans offensive line. But still, that's another year under his belt. We all know how running backs get when they get older. Is he still going to be able to put up those kind of numbers? And, how is the offense going to change? Because, Lamar Jackson, they've had great running backs like Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins. They're both gone now. And even when they were there, Lamar was the first threat on offense when it came to running the ball. So I'm interested to see how it's going to change with Derrick Henry there.
Yeah, and I don't think the Ravens defense is going to – it might look different, but they still have the talent there. I think it's still going to be one of the top defenses in the league. But I also think the same thing about the Chiefs. The Chiefs defense was really good last year, especially later in the year.
Right. And they lost Snead, the Chiefs did, to the Titans. And I believe I want to say that the Ravens lost – was it Patrick Queen they lost? Yeah.
I can't remember where he went. But
so both some key pieces that are missing from last year's AFC Championship game.
But they didn't lose their best players on defense and their defensive leaders. So it's –
Are we talking about both teams?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Chris Jones is still there. Roquan Smith is still there. So
Kyle Hamilton is still there with the Ravens. Marlon Humphreys, don't get me wrong. There's going to, the defense is going to bring some pressure against the Chiefs tonight. I believe that. But You are I'm a little bit high on them, but you are very high on the rookies and the new weapons that the Chiefs have over there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just super high on Xavier Worthy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've covered the Big 12. I've seen Xavier Worthy play for Texas for a while now. I think he was by far the best Texas receiver there, and honestly, I thought he was one of the most talented players in the draft. So the second he got drafted to the Chiefs, I'm like, oh, well, Chiefs just got a future Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm. And
Maybe not that high, but I mean, I could see him burning them for 100+ yards. He's a deep ball threat. He's extremely fast. I was high on him before the combine even, and then when he hit his extremely low time, didn't he break the record?
yes, he did.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I mean, this is just what we've seen from him at Texas.
You know, the more I look at this backdrop, it's kind of giving me a sick one. While it may look like I'm on the sun, it's whitening out everything. But or no, this is my wall, so I'm not really looking too bad on here. But kind of like the Xavier Worthy bets aren't looking too bad. But we'll get to that later. But no, I mean, I'm really excited to see what he's done. I think in terms of a deep ball receiver, you got to go back to the last time Patrick Mahomes had that was like a true deep ball threat was you think Tyreek Hill, but you know, with his size, I think, you know, Xavier Worthy just screams more receiver where he can get the go up and get it balls. We saw that, you know, like you said, covering the Big 12 last year. So it's definitely going to be a different threat. And you look back at the Chiefs offense last year, they had to refrain from, you know, relying on going over the top. Well, now they can just go right back to it. And I think Mahomes is great at doing that.
Yeah, Mahomes didn't have like a consistent passing threat last year.
Mm-hmm.
They were still trying to work in, the Kadarius Toney.
Yep.
Instead of blanking his name, sorry.
Well, you're blanking on his name because he's cut now.
Yeah, I know. He left the team, and I was like, hopefully that's the last time I have to hear or talk about it.
And they picked up Juju, so he's back.
Did. Unfortunately, Hollywood Brown will not play.
That's
He's
true.
out. But I am extremely high on Rashee Rice. He was honestly really good last season. I mean, yeah, I'm looking at his stats right now.
No, very versatile. I mean, definitely came out of nowhere. You know, I think me, you, and all the NFL fans, though, are a little bit surprised that he is not getting suspended for these first couple games.
Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of how the NFL does stuff.
Yeah, or is it just the NFL?
It's just the NFL. I think there's a chance he does later, but, you know.
Yeah, I would agree. But
it could also be a next season thing.
But you'll look at the Ravens. I think you know, and I forgot about this until I started reading up more on it yesterday. That I forget that Mark Andrews actually I forgot he got in a car crash, so he's still kind of coming back from that. And you know, Zay Flowers, I think, you know, he had a really solid rookie year last year. Kind of honestly was the one that lost it for him in the AFC Championship game. If you remember the fumble and, you know, everything that he had going on there. But when you got Lamar Jackson in there, it's just going to be a fun match between these two teams.
Yeah, I don't see this being a yawn fest or whatever. I think this is probably the best opening game they could have given us.
And you better enjoy it as much as I wish I could. I will have it on. Hopefully I'll be covering some high school football tonight, but hopefully I'll be able to, you know, keep up on it as I go on. And apologies to everyone. I'm looking to the side because that's where my door is, trying to make sure that the person that comes through my door is the maintenance man and not, you know, some random dude in my apartment. We want to keep this podcast going. But
well, I'm going to be enjoying this first game of the season, cracking open 1 to 24 ice cold beers.
No, you better enjoy it. I will have to refrain from drinking the cold ones until Saturday when we have our Cyhawk matchup, which I'm looking forward to. Going to be back in Ames for that one.
That'll be the first Cyhawk I haven't covered or watched in person in probably a long time, like 7 years, 8 years.
Yeah. I mean, when you're in Western Iowa like me and Minnesota, like, I mean, for you, it's a little hard to kind of justify going over to Iowa City, but I want to be back in Ames for, the atmosphere at the bars. Win or lose, we booze. I think that's going to be the mentality going out there. And we could talk about that later on if you want to stick here with NFL, though.
Or we could just get it out of the way.
Or we could just get Cyhawk out of the way. The game that, is, whether people like to admit it or not, it is the Super Bowl in the state of Iowa.
Just for Iowa. Not for the Cyclones.
No, Cyclone fans care. We can admit that.
You know what I did here? So I am in Minnesota.
Yep.
The only school that hates Iowa more than Iowa State is Minnesota.
Well, I mean, I believe that. Oh, looks like I got someone coming in. One sec. Sorry, people.
I will keep you guys entertained. So I'm up here in Minnesota, and they have consistently mentioned their hatred for the Hawkeyes. I mean, it is something I didn't expect, but it is super welcome as an Iowa State grad. Get a nice shot of Logan's crotch here. This is what you guys pay to see. You could have set the computer down anywhere else, but just had that nice shot there. Getting like almost a house tour from him too.
What's up? Yeah, guys, here's the apartment here in Sioux City, Iowa. So recently just my girlfriend helped me put this stand up here, or not stand, that lamp. We built that together.
Plants, huh?
Wow. Yeah, we'll fake plant from the girlfriend. It looks cute though. It only took me a couple months to get. We're still working on the entertainment center though.
Ooh, still
looking a little rough.
The farm table.
I'm sure you'll understand. That's one part of adulting, is everything is so damn expensive these days.
Yeah, I don't have a dresser actually because it was too expensive. So I just put my stuff in a laundry basket because that was $5.
Yeah, most what's it called? I'm looking at entertainment centers, and all the nice ones are like $100, which, like, hey, I can spare that, but like $100 is $100, man.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a coffee table in our living room.
I don't have one either, so but I gotta get that figured out. Anyway, what were you telling the listeners while I was dealing with some grown-up stuff?
Just telling them how surprising it is how much Minnesota hates Iowa.
And why is that?
I don't even know. Honestly, they just say that they hate them.
Obviously, Big Ten rivals.
Yeah, close state.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa has been historically good, even though they haven't been good.
Right.
I think it's because Iowa fans are kind of unbearable. So if you're in the Big Ten, you're in their division, I guess. It's probably really irritating to hear them brag about 10-win seasons when they're beating up on like
Rutgers, Northwestern, Indiana,
Maryland. It's like, cool, you got 10 wins, but if you were to play a playoff team, you're going to lose 50-0.
Well, we see that when last year. Okay, I would argue the Hawkeyes this year, their offense is better. Okay, I would say that, no doubt. I mean, it's not just the explosion that they had in the second half against Illinois State. But
I haven't seen it yet, though.
I think they are better than last year. But, that doesn't – you can't forget about how last year the Hawkeyes did not score a point against ranked opponents.
Yeah. Well, also, I'm going to wait to say that they're better than last year, the offense, because I need to see it against an actual team and not like a JV high school club football team.
I agree, and I think you're going to – sadly, I think you're going to see that against Iowa State on Saturday.
I would almost say I don't think Iowa's going to score over 20 points.
But they might win, but they'll probably still win.
Yeah, they'll probably win 17-14. That's my guess.
See, I was thinking about this yesterday. So the defense for Iowa State is obviously down. Probably their best player, not their best player, most important player, Caleb Bacon.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
He's like, okay, well, when you think Iowa State, walk on, earns a scholarship, really one of the highest graded linebackers in
He's the best
Big 12.
linebacker.
Yes.
I think they really rely heavily on their defensive backs. And
I agree. That's just John Heacock's.
Yeah. Scheme. When you have a 5 DB system, you kind of have to rely heavily on that. I think they rely on the quarterback pressure from their linebackers, so it's a big hit to that. But I also don't think Cade McNamara is going to be the one to really abuse the fact that Iowa State can't pressure as much.
Mm-hmm. And even if you look back at that Illinois State game, it does take McNamara, like, it's while he, had good stats, it still took him quite a bit of time to, get into, reading his receivers and, whatnot, knowing where to put the ball. And that's against an Illinois State defensive line.
Yeah, it took them a whole half. They were only up 6-0.
Yeah. And you know what? The offense is what it is in the second half. I'll give credit. I did not see that coming from Cade McNamara. Receiver Reese Vanderzee, true freshman starting at wide receiver, he's a beast. I'll just say it.
Yeah, he's one to watch out for because I think he's actually pretty good. And their running back, Caleb Johnson.
Yeah.
He's really good.
He burned Iowa State last year too.
Yeah. But again, they played Illinois State, and it's really not even close to a good matchup for them because they would be better off just doing another scrimmage because that's kind of if they scrimmage their 2s and 3s, they would get more out of it than playing Illinois State. It's kind of just.
I would agree. It's
just a win. It doesn't really show anything except how they can play in perfect conditions.
And, I didn't read up on, post-game questions or whatnot. I'm sure McNamara or anyone on the Iowa offense had to have been asked what was the difference in the second half. And I'm sure we get coach speak getting back to the basics, reading my reads, stuff like that. But you have I'm watching that first half of the Iowa game, and I'm thinking, really? 6 points? You can't score a touchdown against Illinois State, who gave up, I think they turned the ball over 2 or 3 times in the first half.
Yeah. And I think it does come down to depth and I don't think Illinois State could kind of keep up for that long. I think they're playing their hearts out in the first half, but they're getting too tired.
Mm-hmm.
Their number 1s are probably equivalent to Iowa's number 3s. So, you're having to sub guys in and out more. Iowa, you don't really have a diverse playbook either. So you kind of show your whole hand in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
After that, it's Iowa can kind of just dissect everything. And that's kind of what we saw.
I don't want to say keys to the game because our friend, over at Iowa State, is it John Miller? No. John Walters, sorry. Has that trademarked, and I watched that yesterday. That was good. So I don't want to copyright or steal anything from him, but
we had an issue with that at the Daily because somebody did.
We did. Sorry,
it's not going to be mentioned.
Someone got fired, but anyway, I will say I just agree with one of them is just put the pressure on McNamara, make him do. This is
make him make mistakes because he is really good at making mistakes.
He really is. And that comes from our big boys up front, all right? J.R. Singleton, Tyler Onyenum, Dom Orange. We need them tomorrow or Saturday. We need them to come. Who's the guy I did a story on that ate a bunch of Chipotle and gained put on a bunch of muscle? Ike. We need him. He's good. He's a freak athlete. But,
and I didn't hear anything about Trent Jones. I know that it's probably a cramp last game, but
yep.
If he's back, he should be pretty good.
Now, we can talk a little bit of Iowa State.
Actually, got to bring up their transfer. Who's the transfer defensive end? He actually got a sack.
Iowa State?
Yeah.
I forgot. I didn't realize we had a transfer. Or no, wait. We did. What is his name?
All right, keep them entertained. I'm gonna look this up.
Well, we can talk about that, and then we'll we'll switch more on to Iowa State offense a little bit more, and then from two people that have watched a lot of Cyhawk games, we're just going to give you guys what's going to happen and what needs to happen for the teams to win. What's his name?
Kennard Snyder.
Kennard Snyder. That sounds familiar. Yeah.
He was a sack machine. I can't remember. At Louisiana Monroe.
Gotcha.
Is that right?
But so for Iowa State, Chris Williams was talking about this on his podcast the other day. You gotta trust John Heacock that he's gonna dial up something that will at least keep Iowa under control for 3 quarters.
Yeah.
And it's Iowa State's offense. It's their job from there to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and I think people are reading too much into North Dakota and their ability to march down the field. I mean, they got into the red zone multiple times. Honestly, I think it was the second drive they had of the game where they ate up like 13 minutes of clock.
That was the only time they scored.
Yeah, and they got a field goal.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what people don't realize, last year, if you watched Iowa State's defense, it's just like the embodiment of bend, don't break.
Yes.
And I think that's what John Heacock does, is he lets you get your yardage. You can get your 10-yard plays. You can bite off chunks of 4 yards, 6 yards. But once you get into the red zone, when the field is really narrow, that's when the 5 DBs really comes into play, because it's really hard to find openings in the air to get the ball into the end zone. And it's really tough to break off runs that are more than 2 yards if you have, 2 safeties coming down to fill in the gaps.
Mm-hmm. Especially, I mean, we talked about the laundry list of names of guys that we got out there. Jeremiah Cooper, Malik Verdun, our guy, Bo Freeler, and then the corners. We were, last year we had to start some young corners in Jontez Williams and Jamison Patton. I think they performed pretty admirable on Saturday, and you just gotta hope that they can do the same thing against Iowa. But that all starts with putting pressure up front on back.
Yeah, and I like that. I think it will be more difficult you mentioned all the big dudes on the defensive line. Yes, they can apply some pressure, but the real pressure comes when you rush in that linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be, that's what Caleb Bacon did best. He was just so good at pressuring quarterbacks last year.
Mm-hmm.
And,
big.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. And that's what earned him his rating.
Yeah.
His high rating.
And a big guy that I'm looking for on the linebacker core, we can move to offense after this, but is Jack Sadowski, who last year started quite a bit of games. I want to say he started almost all. I could be butchering that, but
third of the first game as a freshman, I want to say.
Yeah, but Saturday he didn't start as a linebacker. He didn't start as a linebacker, which kind of surprising. But I think we need a big performance from him on Saturday with the loss of Caleb Bacon.
Yeah, I can see that. I feel like they just have so much depth in the linebacker room. It's like really anybody can step up.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say Iowa State offensively. I know Iowa has a scary defense for sure. They have had that against Big Ten West teams. But if Rocco Becht gets going, I'm confident that I don't think any Iowa State game will ever be a blowout. But I think if you can get Rocco going with Higgins and Knoll, that's what's going to create, that's how this offense is going to flourish on Saturday.
Yeah, and I mean, they just have a connection, that trio of players. I mean, what? I'm pretty sure it was. I don't know if maybe he missed a throw later. I think he completed every single throw to Higgins and Knoll. He might have.
So.
Yeah, he might have missed like one or two, but I think it was through the first 3 quarters he was perfect to them. And I mean, it's just because he has a good deep ball. I mean, we saw his throw to Higgins for a touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, that first throw of the game was probably not the best place because that's going to be picked off by most defenses.
That's what most podcasts that I would listen to after was like, you cannot do that at Kinnick because that is an interception and a half.
Yeah, but Knoll, I mean, does that not show you how just insanely good Knoll is? I mean, there's no way he caught that ball.
No, yeah.
It was like an NCAA glitch.
That's I mean, I'm watching it from my couch and I'm like, Rocco, what are you doing? Double coverage. And then you see my tweet right after. I'm like, I love it. I love it.
I was like, I literally stood up. I'm like, there's no way he got that. And then like a couple plays later, tossing it to Higgins, I'm like,
the next play.
I'm like, okay, we're so back.
But that's, I mean, we kind of knew that was going to happen with Taylor Mauser as the new offensive coordinator. They were stressing all off season that they were going to air it out. So
first play,
yeah,
bomb it. I do want to see him kind of vibe more with Eli Green.
Yep,
I think Eli Green's good, but you could definitely tell that the two didn't have the best chemistry yet. I mean, I don't know how it is in the locker room. They're probably good friends, obviously. But on the field, they just seemed a little bit off. Like, Rocco was expecting Eli Green to maybe break out a couple more yards or to not stop. Or there were some balls where he would throw it and it'd be slightly over him because, maybe Eli Green came in when Rocco was hoping he'd go out. It's just it's stuff that they'll figure out through time. But yeah, it just seemed like they were a little off. But Eli Green did get some good catches during that game.
And some pieces that Iowa State is probably going to be hoping to get going on Saturday that they didn't against North Dakota. Ben Bramer, I heard he's still coming back from a little bit of an injury. He's kind of banged up, but he was
dropped a couple balls.
Yeah. And then also, I like that Iowa State didn't fully show their hand with I don't think Isaiah Alston got a look on Saturday.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was a thing with Isaiah Alston where he couldn't play yet.
Because of transferring? It could be.
Yeah.
But also, I believe we saw Benny Nagoye also play a little bit. So, I mean, this is a super deep receiver room, probably one of the deepest that Iowa State's had in a while.
And, I mean, that's kind of what they need with their game plan.
Yep.
Air the ball out. They're going to need the receivers to be on top.
Now, I mentioned how, we've obviously watched a lot of these Cyhawk games, and we can do this and then move on more to NFL. But I want to hear what I was just thinking about this at work yesterday, telling the people, from how much Cyhawk games we've watched, what is going to happen. Like, this will happen for sure. What do you think are your for sures in this game?
For sures are going to be some type of special teams slip up, probably by the Cyclones.
Yep.
I could see either they get a punt blocked or they miss a field goal.
Muff a punt.
We've seen, Iowa could return kickoff. I mean, it seems like something always happens on special teams. Even though they've improved their special teams, something still happens. And it's just like the nature of the game.
I think I love that. I think also one of these two quarterbacks, if not both, I trust Becht a little bit more because you look at the difference between, so last year in the Iowa State game, he throws a pick six. That was his second game that he started. I think he's grown tremendously since then, but I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility that he just throws a bad interception.
Yeah, I
because
think
that's what
both
Iowa does.
quarterbacks probably will throw that interception.
Yep. There
That's
was
almost a guarantee.
yeah, there was that, and like whether it's there's no better way to put this, but whether it's on offense or special teams, just prepare for something. The only way to describe it is something dumb to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's gonna be a close game regardless, I think, and it's something dumb is just gonna happen from one of the teams.
Yeah, and that this game is just so unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
The only almost guaranteed thing is that Iowa's probably got like an 80% chance to win.
Yep, and that I wouldn't be surprised if on Twitter on Saturday or Sunday we hear about how like Iowa fans are heckling the shit out of the Iowa State bench.
Yeah, I mean,
Wouldn't be surprised at all.
yeah, that's the tough thing about playing in Kinnick is Iowa seems to hold a lot bigger of a hatred for Iowa State than the other way around.
Talked about this last week. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So I think it could get really chippy.
Also, we were talking about this before the show, but I do just want to mention to both Iowa and Iowa State fans that I was thinking about it yesterday. Does you gotta coach speak. You want to set the tone. You want to be the team that scores first. But does that really matter in the Cyhawk game? Well, history
No.
shows that it doesn't, because the last 10 years, the last 10 Cyhawk matchups, teams that score first are 5-5, whether it's Iowa scoring first or Iowa State. And Christian was on the money when I told him to guess who do you think has scored first more in these games, and he was on the money with Iowa. Iowa has scored first 7 times in the last 10 games, but they have only won 5 of those games. So scoring
is interesting.
It is interesting. In the games that they score first, Iowa has 5 wins. In the games that Iowa State scores first, they have 0 wins. Just a thought.
Yeah, and I feel like Iowa State doesn't really play from behind that well.
No.
So even if the stats don't show it, the film shows it. I mean, just listening to Matt Campbell talk for the last 2 years, watching every single snap for the last 2 years, it's very clear that their game plan drastically shifts if they're behind, especially if they're behind at half, and then it's really hard for them to dig out of that hole as opposed to other teams.
I've told a lot of people, Matt Campbell and Iowa State, they just don't come back when they're down two scores. Like when we saw last year, so Iowa, I had to look back. So at first they went up 10-0. And even then you're starting to think, probably not. Iowa State's offense was not looking great. And then Beck throws that pick 6. And I look at you and I'm like, well, it's over.
Yeah. And if there were like 1-2 more quarters in that game, Iowa State probably wins. Because I think they started to form a comeback. They started
the score last year, to quote Coach Matt Fannin, stats can be deceiving. And it last year's was a little bit, because the final score was 13-20, I want to say. So
yeah,
20-13. Sorry, 20-13.
Yeah, come on.
And
in the right order.
Yeah, and because that's when we really first saw Jaden Higgins come alive, because he had that touchdown. But yeah, going into halftime, it was 17-3. Iowa scores a field goal in the third quarter, and then nothing the rest of the game. Iowa State puts up 10 more points, but other than that, it's really they have to get a good start. You can't let Iowa force a bad mistake out of you, because that's how they're going to live. Or that's how they're going to live and breathe a win out of this game.
Yeah. And I kind of want to see Abu Sama get going, because you talk about early momentum. He was the reason they won the Kansas State game, because they rip off a few quick touchdowns, and then it's Iowa State's so good from playing ahead If they can find a little bit of that magic, maybe he puts up one touchdown in the first drive off like a 40-yard run.
Mm-hmm.
I think Iowa State's probably sitting pretty.
But with Iowa's defensive line, I don't really know if they're going to be able to get the run game going. When was the last time that Iowa State was able to get the run going again? I mean, you can look at 2 years ago. Yeah, Jairo Brock finishes with over 100 rushing yards, but he had to. I mean, I think he carried that ball damn near 30 times in that game.
Yeah, but I mean that would be the best example. I don't think Iowa's defensive line is as good as like Texas's when they held them to like negative yards.
That's true.
But,
and I also just thought about this. This is gonna be the last thing, but for Cyhawk. But it's interesting to think that they're going back to Iowa City where they won last time. Again, just a wonky game. You were there, but this, like, Iowa State has had now 2 different offense coordinators since winning that last game. I can't believe they won. I can't believe they won that game in Iowa City with Tom Manning as the offense coordinator.
It was an interesting. I mean, that was just the year that Iowa couldn't score.
That's true.
Which I mean, I guess that's every year, but they really couldn't score that year.
Yeah. Tom Manning, Mr. Run, pass, punt.
No, it was actually run, turnover on downs.
I always, watching a lot of those games, it was a lot of run, negative yard. Run, get back to, 3rd and 10. And then Decker's either pick, incomplete, or to Xavier Hutchinson, but only for like 8 yards.
Yeah. And I mean, it was just tough to watch that. Big thing was the offensive line.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because they couldn't run block or pass block. So there were no holes for the running backs. Jairo Brock had to like will his way to 3 yards a carry.
Mm-hmm.
And then
he got hurt. I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. He got hurt, and then you're relying on Norton and Sanders the rest of the year.
Norton was hurt too.
Oh, that's right.
And then, I mean, when Decker stepped back to pass, he would have probably 1 second before the pocket collapsed on him. And it's just, usually you would just take the sack there, maybe throw it out of bounds. He would just throw it, away across his body into the middle of the field. So that's.
Yep. And for that reason and many others, like betting, that's why he's at Iowa Western. Anyway, let's move on to more NFL. Prediction for the Cyhawk game. I'm going to talk my shit. I'll be honest with you. I got a lot of Iowa fans in my family, but I think it's going to end up being like 17-10 Iowa.
Yeah, I have 17-14 Iowa. I think Rocco Beck can be a great Iowa State quarterback, and great Iowa State quarterbacks don't beat Iowa.
Yep. You even saw, like, again, people were talking about this, like Purdy in his last game against Iowa. Oh, Beck, just don't do that. I mean, Brock Purdy was terrible against Iowa in that final game in 2021.
Yeah, but we're trying to make the playoffs, so this game doesn't really matter. Iowa can have their Super Bowl, whatever. We're going to focus on the real games.
Okay, do you really think Iowa State has a chance? I know they've expanded it, obviously, to 12 teams, but do you really think Iowa State has a chance in hell at making the playoffs?
If they win the Big 12.
I think that's their only route.
Like 1 to 2 games away last season from making the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, but then, like, you look at their losses in Big 12 games last year, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, probably forget one.
All-ranked teams.
Huh?
All-ranked teams.
Yeah.
2 of those teams aren't in the Big 12 anymore.
That's true. But, no, I think the only way that I think Iowa State fans are a little too confident that they actually think we have a shot at making the playoffs. I'm not saying we'd have to go undefeated, but we'd have to win the Big 12.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm thinking is if they make the playoffs, it's going to be winning the Big 12. But, I mean, it seems like anybody can get into the Big 12 championship at this point.
Yeah, I think the top contenders there, I'm going to say Iowa State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, all the states. Maybe Kansas. I'm surprised people are still really high on them, but and Utah, of course. Those are my
I'm
kind
not
of big
high
guys.
up on Utah.
Really?
Give me Colorado. No?
I'm excited to watch that game, but all my money is on Nebraska. I think I put in bets for Nebraska.
Yeah, Dylan Raiola might be the next Patrick Mahomes. He's, pretty much changing his appearance to look exactly like him. So,
I mean, can you blame him? Look at Patrick. What? Get back to speaking of Patrick. Getting back to the NFL.
Patrick Surtain.
Want to do news? We can do. Yep, I like. All right. We can. You can start. Yeah, you can start this transition, buddy. I don't know about if I've got the voice to talk about this first news.
I guess I'll take a shot at it.
Oh
no, my bad. Too soon. In all seriousness, Ricky Pearsall.
Christian James. What are we doing?
If he wasn't perfectly fine, probably not joking about it.
Okay.
Continue. But Ricky Pearsall, I mean, what a dog. Shot in the chest.
By a 17-year-old who is attempting to rob a store in San Francisco.
Yep.
And you brought it up to me. He survived. In the chest.
In the chest, missed all vitals. I think it went out the other side. So he's perfectly fine. He's been released from the hospital. And he's in the weight room at the 49ers facilities. He wasn't hitting anything, but just hanging out with the team. I mean, he's on track to probably play again this season. I know I heard so many comments after that happened. They're like, oh, terrible. Ricky Pearsall got shot. He had such a bright career ahead of him. It's so sad to see it end already. And people are like, he's never going to play another snap of football game. He shouldn't. I'm like, he's fine.
Right. Well, you told me
hit anything. Maybe that's probably a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
But he's somehow just completely fine.
You told me, and this is why, social media is terrible now, that some people thought he died.
Yeah. No, people were talking like that was it. They were like, well, he got shot in the chest. That's, rest in peace, fly high. I'm like, he's in stable condition.
Right.
He walked to the ambulance.
But, I mean, as a man, you wish that you could have a moment that badass.
Yeah.
And you get shot in the chest and you walk on your own terms to the ambulance.
After putting the other guy in the hospital.
Wait, I didn't hear this part.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the suspect was taken to the hospital too. Gotcha. I think there was a struggle over the gun or something.
And he, I believe, the necessary charges are being put on that teenager, really, and he'll be going to jail. So
yeah, but I mean, Pearsall's a really good football player. We saw him at Florida, first round draft pick. I mean, I think he could be pretty good. So
yeah,
luckily he'll be back in the field this season.
Mm-hmm. And I saw a tweet the other day. Hopefully, walking out to Many Men by my man Fitty. So
it's a good one. Another player that almost died. I don't know if you saw that Damar Hamlin. Getting the starting job.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was like, okay. Yeah, I did see that, and it's a little surprising. Maybe I want to take Arizona money line now. No, I'm just kidding. But
I saw a lot of people saying that. I probably shouldn't. Just a lot of memes about Marvin Harrison.
Oh no. Okay. Well,
I'll send you something after the pod that I saw.
All right. Smart to do that. That reminds me, maybe I should actually Not that makes me more inclined to do it, but I do kind of want to bet some Kyler Murray props. Anyways, that's just the fun thing about week 1 is you don't know who's good, who's bad. I want to put props on everyone now. Anyways.
Yeah. And now that I'm in Minnesota, I can only do prop bets pretty much.
That's true.
So
prop bets are fun. Anyway, move on to that. Yep, he's starting for the first time since starting on defense at least after almost dying a couple of years ago. Maybe he'll be on special teams soon. And they'll run another fake punt.
Yeah, and I think he's probably just like an average corner at this point. He's
Safety,
obviously good enough. I think the thing is he beat out, I think they had a 2nd-round pick that they drafted, and he beat him out for the starting job. So it's, he's at least better than the rookies they have coming in.
Yeah, and really, if we think back on it, the only reason he was starting, not only reason I'll say, but he was put in that position a couple of years ago, because of injuries, and he was solid. People can make all the jokes that they want about him, but when he was playing, he was a good player.
Yeah, he wasn't insane. He was just, he'll give you reps.
Yeah.
That's kind of all you need.
So he'll be making his return. I'll be keeping my eye on that game when I can, especially if I put some Kyler Murray props on it. But staying in the DB conversation, Patrick Surtain, now the highest paid defensive back in NFL history after signing an extension with the Broncos these past couple days. Good move.
$96 million extension.
Yeah, I think it's a great move. Broncos, they might be building something special down there with some good young pieces. Obviously, Bo Nix, but you got to think that this was a big move for them, especially hunkering down on Surtain, a guy that in that draft class I really wanted him, and when we drafted Micah Parsons, I was not very excited about. Yeah,
I always say how that turned out. Granted, they're completely different positions, but. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely proved that he's one of the best corners in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, actually, do you remember what draft class he was from?
2021.
2021.
Yep. I remember down in that position, it was Surtain.
J.C. Horn was picked right before him.
I wanted J.C. Horn too.
And I remember, I thought that I really liked Patrick Surtain, and I thought the Panthers really screwed up passing on him to pick up J.C. Horn because I want to say Surtain was the number 1 guy in that draft.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. And everybody's hating on him because he's an Alabama corner.
Right.
But we saw that happen.
I saw a graphic that was like how much money that Alabama team has made and like extensions, and you got guys like Surtain, Quinnen Williams, Trayvon Diggs, Jalen Hurts, a bunch of guys from there. So, Alabama just continuing to – well, they're now starting to put out, great – not starting, I would say, but, continuing to put out great players in the pros. Regardless of that, I do remember in that draft class, I was not very high on Micah Parsons, and I really wanted the Cowboys to draft a corner. And then they ended up doing so with Trayvon Diggs in the 2nd round. So
a really good draft for them.
Yeah. Obviously already extended Trayvon and still working on that Micah deal, which is getting scarier by the minute, just like the CD deal is. But,
Yeah, that was also the draft that the Browns took Greg Newsome, who's, I think, is pretty good.
Yeah. Was he 1st round?
Mm-hmm. The Packers took Eric Stokes in the 1st round.
You've been injured? Better than Kevin King, I guess.
Yeah, come on now.
Anyway.
Speaking of Kings, Jamar Chase, my Bengals king.
Okay. Interesting.
He's been holding out for a while now. And I think last week, Bengals got cocky. They said, we're good. He's starting the season. And he said, who do you think you are? Showed up in street clothes. But this week he was practicing. He showed up in uniform for practice. So I don't know if that means they're nearing a contract. He was limited at practice, so he wasn't going through everything. But he was there. He was actually participating, which is a good sign for Bengals fans.
Yes, because
Jamar Chase owners in fantasy.
Yep, because they're going to need him. I actually, we were talking about this before the pod that, CD Lamb is still on that exempt list, which is why because I realized I have him in both fantasy leagues, obviously, and he is listed as out. And I'm like, oh, that's probably just like a bug. We'll get fixed. Look back today, still out. So I'm nervous, but optimistic.
Yeah, because I did see, I'm trying to see. It's some like weird thing about CD and his holdout.
Because you were saying because he held out a little bit too long, pretty much.
Yeah, maybe.
But with Jamar Chase, yeah, you're obviously fantasy owners, but Bengals fans in general, because they're going to need him, Joe Burrow specifically, they obviously got that great connection, but people that want to look back, Joe Burrow has historically not had great starts to the season. You want to look back at last year's game and the year before that. The year before that, I believe it was against the Steelers, and he was just terrible.
Yeah.
So they need him for sure. If Burrow continues to be, pretty bad to start the season, to be frank.
Well, hello, Frank. So I don't know if this doesn't seem like there's a lot of reputable sources talking about CD. I totally blanked what you said because I was looking at this. But It does say, so the team is given, this is correct. I've seen this multiple places, 2-game roster exemption. So he's on the commissioner's exempt list so that he doesn't count against their 53-man roster. But they can activate him at any time. The only issue is I think that Mike McCarthy, at least, has him on a snap count because he missed all of training camp, all of practices. He, being a receiver, that's kind of a tough position to just throw you in raw. So, there's a chance that you kind of want to limit his snaps so that he can come back in healthier and be more ready for the season. You don't want him injured week 1.
Yeah,
But he's like almost a 90% chance to play week 1. Probably 98, I'd say.
Making me less nervous on my fantasy teams, but we got depth there, so it would hurt, but we'd still win. Anyways, Jamar Chase, he'll also probably, I would suspect he probably plays week 1. More of this hold-in action that we saw with Brandon Ayuk, and I bet Jamar Chase, they get a deal done in the middle of the season.
Yeah. Well, I bet they get the deal done soon.
How much sooner can it be then? Or, oh, you mean just like beginning of the season? Yeah, I meant during the season they'll get the deal done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we'll have to wait until the off season.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen like tonight, but maybe. And Trent Williams' holdout is over too. He got his extension.
Yes, which I don't know if you saw, but apparently he was not more inclined, but he wanted to do the extension more after he saw what happened to Ricky Pearsall.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was more just like a team thing. Like, let me look this up. Keep them entertained.
Trent Williams, he 3-year extension for $82 million, including almost $50 million signing. Is that crazy? $50 million at signing.
He's still the best left tackle in the league.
Yeah. So I think that was honestly the last piece for the 49ers that they were kind of worrying about. You get Trent Williams back. I think they're ready to go week 1. It's, I feel like they're set to take on the Jets.
Yep, and I'm excited for that Monday Night Football. Look forward to that. We'll get to that more, but multiple sources here saying that kind of weird wording here, to be honest, from a journalist perspective. But it says Trent Williams says Ricky Pearsall shooting motivated him to end contract holdout. Inspired is an interesting word to use, and my screen is kind of frozen. But yeah, just know that did happen. That did happen. So that was interesting. It was interesting to hear. I mean, kind of maybe just how close the whole team is. But yeah, Trent Williams gets that deal done.
I think that's all the news we had.
That is. I think we talked more Cyhawk than we did more news, but we got that news out of the way.
I think at this point, there's nothing crazy in the news cycle because all the holdouts are starting to get over, and it's mainly just like, let's get the season started.
Yeah, for real. So now we can, speaking of getting the season started, now we can move into our week 1 games. We already talked Chiefs Ravens, but we have a game, a historical game really, over in Brazil on Friday.
Packers Eagles. And I know you said you don't like what is it? The international games?
Yeah, it's just kind of gimmicky, I think. It's cool and everything, but it's all right.
Yeah. I think even take away the international game, it is Eagles Packers. So I mean, that's just a good matchup in itself. 2 playoff teams, 2 teams that are probably contenders for the NFC Championship.
I would agree.
And we're going to see if Jordan Love can back up his contract extension.
Yeah, because really he earned that because of his second half of last year. And now, it's time to really prove it. So I think he'll be able – I know obviously the Eagles bring in Cooper DeJean and a couple other – they keep a lot of guys from their secondary from last season. But I think still Jordan Love, the Packers have a lot of young weapons. I'm really just excited, and as a Josh Jacobs fantasy owner, hopefully to see him ball out.
Yeah, because I think Josh Jacobs is still a good running back.
Oh, for sure, he's still a good running back. For sure.
It was 2 years ago when he was like the best in the league.
2 years ago, yeah, led the league in rushing yards.
Yeah, and I think he's coming off that injury to end last season, I want to say.
Yep.
But it's got a whole offseason to get healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Packers, with Matt LaFleur, have used the running backs really well. So I see him just continuing to be good.
I think this is more of a game where, we see the offenses shine. I know they both have – the Eagles more so have a pretty solid defense. Packers are just okay. Definitely was kind of their Achilles heel last season. I mean, love Baker, but, not everyone – he's not getting a perfect passer rating against everyone. And he did against the Packers in Lambeau, something that not many quarterbacks have done. So,
well, that did seem kind of just like a stars aligning type thing.
Okay, well, give him a little credit there. But I'm interested to see this game. Friday night NFL football. You don't see it very often, especially in the first week of the season.
That's true. It gives us so much football over the weekend.
Mm-hmm. If we, I guess, want to make a prediction here, I would say I'm leaning towards the Eagles. I think they're just going to set the tone for their season. Obviously didn't end the year great last year. Another team that Baker beat. But I think they'll do pretty well. I'm not really sure how that Packers defense is looking, so I'll go Eagles on this one.
Yeah, I think I got to push the narrative that Jordan Love's just going to win the MVP this year, so I'm taking the Packers.
That's where we differ. An old Packers fan sticking with his team.
Okay. Backsliding.
Yeah. Going from your old team to your new team. Game of the week here at Trench Talk.
Oh.
We got the Dallas Cowboys coming into town, into Cleveland, and they are going to walk out with a win.
Cleveland is?
No. Dallas. Sunday, I believe this is a noon game. Uh, jokes on me. It's game of the week, 3:25 on Fox. Tom Brady's first game that he will be announcing.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Let's just say whichever one of our teams loses, they will be cursed by Tom Brady for the rest of the year.
That would suck to have my team cursed by that man for the rest of the season.
Yeah, well, the
Imagine
only
if he
time.
becomes the Browns announcer the entire season.
Oh gosh. Well, it would be more fitting for the Cowboys to be cursed by Tom Brady because the Cowboys didn't beat Tom Brady in his career until his final game in the NFL in the playoffs. So
He's getting his revenge by
he
announcing the game.
he is. But realistically, we talked about CeeDee Lamb not being able to play. I think that's a huge factor in this, especially with the Browns defense that is very they have a great pressure up front, solid DBs. We'll get to more how I think going to get a little bit exposed later on, but I'm obviously riding with the Cowboys here, but they're going to have to decipher that defense for sure.
Yeah, I think the Browns defense is the only thing they have going for them. So
even after trading for Jerry Jeudy in the offseason.
Yeah. Jerry Jeudy has not lived up to what I thought he would be. I do think the wide receivers bring a lot of versatility on the offense, a lot of different choices for Watson to go to. But what I heard is Deshaun Watson, you know what he said this week?
Is this real or fake?
This is real. He said that he's ready, something like he's ready to be elite again. Like he's back to his 2019 self or whatever when he was really good.
So 5 years ago?
Yeah. So that means he's going to be bad.
From a Browns fan, is this the make or break year for Deshaun?
Yeah, because at this point, Deshaun's just kind of been riding the bench. Sure, he came in last year and he won some games somehow, but it wasn't because he played well. It was because the defense played well.
Oh yes, I agree. But because I want to say he was 5-1 in his games, 5-1 or 5-2 in his games last year,
which was the most surprising because if you look at how he played in the stat line, you're like, thank goodness he got injured. But then you look at his wins and you're like, okay, I guess it didn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a reason that Joe Flacco was doing really well.
Right.
I mean, I love Joe Flacco. He was my favorite Browns player last year, but you got to think that the defense was carrying the games later in the season.
And, I think they have the potential to do that again this year. Mm-hmm. But if you want to flip it over to the other side, the Cowboys defense, I'm excited to see what this defense is going to look like. My favorite Cowboy is back, Trayvon Diggs. Favorite Cowboy on the defense. But Deron Bland is gone for the first couple weeks. So I wouldn't be surprised if, the secondary gets a little bit exposed. I'm actually surprised. I forgot, just a random poll here, that Malik Hooker is still on the Cowboys. And he had a good year last year.
Okay.
And, I know he is old, but I wish that the Cowboys, especially with Deron Bland being down, I wish the Cowboys would have brought back Stephon Gilmore.
Oh, they didn't get that deal done?
No, he's at the Vikings now.
Oh, that's right. And they got Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
The Cowboys.
So
flip the two Vikings.
Yeah, so it'll be an interesting rushing attack. I think this is going to I know the Browns have a great defensive front, but I think this is going to really set the tone for what this rushing offense is going to look like between Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook.
Two really old injured running backs.
I'm not looking forward to it, to be honest with you. That's why I think they're going to have to rely on Dak's arm, which could cause some problems for the Cowboys.
Yeah. Granted, they've had to rely on it in the past because Tony Pollard is not good.
But we've seen what the Cowboys look like when they have to go up against what are probably going to in the Browns, which is going to be probably an above 500 team.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy to say. I'm so happy with above 500 at this point.
You're probably going to get there, especially with that defense. But anyway, we'll get down to brass tacks. I think I'm just pulling out all the one-liners here. I'm going to say I'll ride with Cowboys, man. I got to ride with them.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to ride with the Browns. That's just kind of where we differ.
Yeah, we'll come back next week, and one of us will be laughing. The other one, not so much.
Be wearing a paper bag over my head.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, we love segueing into games. I don't know how I can segue a paper bag into Texans Colts.
Yeah, we kind of just we have some games we want to talk about just because they seem cool. So
that's pretty. Yeah, that's
why we want to mention Texans Colts.
It's the NFL fans and us just being like little kids again. Oh, this game will probably be good.
What's games that I want to tune into? Because Sunday, I think I have to work in the morning, but the rest of the day is all football.
Yeah. I'll be in Ames. I will probably also have to be working, but fortunately to my girlfriend's, hopes, it's, we're going to have some football on. But she's from Minnesota, so she'll watch the Vikings in the background, so that's my excuse. So I'll probably have to watch the Vikings and
I will too.
Giants. So
game of the week, Vikings Giants. Sam Darnold versus Daniel Jones.
Yep. So but just moving on to Texans Colts real quick. I mean, I'm really going to be watching out for AR in this game because I thought he was fun to watch last year, but I don't know if his style of play is going to be able to hold up, especially with how many hits he takes. And he played in 5 games last year. I want to say he finished 1 or 2.
In what?
Last year. Like he finished the game.
Oh, okay.
Because he kept getting concussions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like concussions are something that he can figure out,
Classic.
But everybody says his play style isn't good for the NFL, but I'm like, really? Because Cam Newton played for a while. Lamar is like one of the best quarterbacks in the league currently.
Yeah.
He's mainly a rushing quarterback. I mean, Janie Daniels is going to have to do the same thing. I feel like getting injured is something that's just kind of random. Josh Allen runs the ball consistently. He gets hit way harder than everybody else, and he's not been injured.
They have the potential. The Colts have the potential to make the AFC South one of the most competitive divisions with the Jags, the Colts, and the Texans because of the weapons that they have on offense. I mean, they add Adonai or Adonai?
Adonai Mitchell.
Adonai Mitchell. Another Texas receiver that we were able to watch last year in Ames.
He was really good.
And I'm excited to watch him. I love Michael Pittman. It's going to be interesting to see if Jonathan Taylor can come back again and have a decent to great season. But you look on the other side, and the Texans are probably the team that everyone is the highest on.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they go from the dumpster to the playoffs because of one player. And CJ Stroud was insane in his first year.
Mm.
People are already putting him in their top 10, top 5 conversations.
For MVP.
And he's only played a year. So unless he has a sophomore slump, which I don't see that as a possibility with added weapons, he should just be even better this coming year.
Mm-hmm.
It really sets up the future of the NFL.
Yeah,
hopefully. And
they add Stephon Diggs, which, it'll be interesting to see how he works out there. There was an article I think that released, and he was talking about how like that second half in Buffalo, he was just not in a great mental state. So now that he's in Houston, I think he's just kind of more excited to be playing on this team. kind of what it came off as. But other than that, I mean, Tank Dell, Xavier Hutchinson. I'm just kidding, but Tank Dell,
Nico Collins.
Nico Collins, and isn't it crazy that actually a former Cowboy, that Noah Brown, who got cut by the Texans after he had like 700 receiving yards last year, but he got signed somewhere, I want to say.
I thought you were going to say Dalton Schultz.
No, also a former Cowboy.
You said former Cowboy.
Man, people don't want to talk. People don't want to remember Noah Brown on the Cowboys. He was solid as last year there. Anyway. Oh, yeah, that's right. The Commander. Oh, he's just going back to the NFC East. The Commanders signed him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was lying. Okay, so Noah Brown had 567 receiving yards last year. But still.
Yeah, because I believe Nico Collins and Tank Dell are hurt for time.
Yeah.
Tank Dell at the end of the year, Nico Collins earlier in the year.
But
something like that.
But their offense is still – I mean, they have – one of the best wide receivers.
They pick up Joe Mixon.
Yep, that's true. Which that could be interesting. And back there, they already have a decent running back, I want to say, before adding him. Not Devin Singletary anymore.
It's taking me back to like the David Johnson days. I was trying to think
right? Dameon Pierce.
That's right. Okay, I want to say he was like just average. I feel.
Yeah, I mean this wide receiver room, even behind Diggs, Collins, and Dell, Robert Woods, veteran,
kind of old. Yeah.
Yeah. John Mechie, who people are really high on.
Yeah,
and like Xavier Hutchinson.
And we like Xavier Hutchinson because he's a Cyclone.
And John Mechie, I forgot actually that he was a second-round pick 2 years ago. So,
yeah. I mean, they technically have depth, but there's definitely a fall off from Tank Dell to Robert Woods.
For sure, but depth is depth, and I think this has the potential to be a shootout because both defenses aren't necessarily amazing. So I think this could definitely turn into a barn burner.
Yeah, and I mean this is going to be a game I want to keep my eye on just because, I mean, it is just the two rookies from last year that I think if Anthony Richardson was healthy the entire year, I feel like we'd be talking about him a lot more.
I would agree. I think people just don't really know what to think of him because, he didn't play that much last season. So,
yeah. But when he did play, it was special.
Yeah, definitely different. And you saw the talent, but a lot of people, are still looking for stuff that, like last year, it was the same problems that he had in college. You didn't really his completion percentage was kind of low, taking a lot of hits,
But we said the same thing about Josh Allen. I mean, his completion percentage was low to start his career. He was taking a lot of hits, and now he's like a top 3 guy in the league.
That's true. So, I mean, 2 of the best young quarterbacks will be on display next year. Or not next year. It's on Sunday. So,
yeah.
Hopefully they'll be on display next year. So, but on the last Sunday game that we have on this slate, we've got Rams-Lions, a rematch from the wild card round, sorry.
Yeah, it's like part 2 again of the quarterbacks facing their former teams, which is I think it's kind of fun.
No, yeah, that's the most exciting part about this. I have some bets with this game. I think it's going to be – I'm looking forward to seeing what this defense will look – the Rams defense is going to look like without Aaron Donald. And, just hopefully another fun year. Fun really is the best way to describe it. Fun year with the Rams offense, with Sean McVay as the coach. And, 2 probably of my favorite receivers to watch in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp.
It's very interesting. See, I'm on the other side. I like the Lions.
No, yeah, I like the Lions.
I think Dan Campbell's way of playing is just super fun. I mean, let's go for 4th and 20s. Let's just do it. I mean, plus you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is probably going to be a top 3 receiver
Right.
again. You have Jahmyr Gibbs going into his second season, David Montgomery, a Iowa State guy.
Yep.
I mean, the offense is like one of the best offenses in the league, and somehow Jared Goff is really good. So,
And
I
they
mean, that's cool to watch.
and they extended him again this offseason as well.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, yeah, obviously the Rams lose Aaron Donald, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is another kind of repeat of the wild card round where it was a very close game. And I mean, I'm excited to watch the Lions offense because of, guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown. I almost picked him up in fantasy, but you got him after me. So I know you'll be looking for him on that. And then, obviously both running backs, Gibbs, Montgomery, another high flying offensive game if I had to predict it.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to who scores first and who scores last. I feel like
Okay, don't give me that coach speech right there. give me your real thoughts. Also, we forgot to predict the last game. I'll go Texans.
Oh yeah, I'll go Texans by a mile, by a million. No, but I mean, this is going to be the Rams Lions is going to be like. I feel like it's going to be constant scoring. I don't think. I mean, Lions defense, yeah, they can hold the Rams, but I think the Rams are kind of better than people are giving them credit for.
Yeah.
I think we've seen them be explosive in the past, and I think we'll probably see them come back to their old self. I mean, sure, Matthew Stafford is getting up there in age, but I mean, he's a pocket passer. I mean, he still has an arm.
Last year was a big prove it year for Matthew Stafford because honestly, after he got hurt 2 years ago, I went into last year thinking, okay, well, if he doesn't at least have a decent to above average, or really with those weapons, now that I think about it, if he doesn't have at least like an above average to really good year, you got to think about moving on from him. But I think he comes into this. I'm a lot higher on him coming into this year compared to last year,
especially with healthy receivers. And I mean, what Kyron Williams did last year. I mean, he's looking like, I don't know, really good running back. Todd Gurley 2.0.
And as a Blake Corum fantasy owner, I hope that he kind of goes out there as well and balls out. I do want to look up Matthew Stafford. Yeah, last year.
You're like rooting for Kyron's injury. Like, okay,
no,
calm down.
No, not rooting for injury, but just for them to use Blake Corum. Yeah, I mean, Matthew Stafford surprisingly last year, I mean, completes 62% of his passes. It's kind of low for him. But 3,900 yards, 24 touchdowns, 11 picks, 9-6 record. I mean, come on now.
Yeah, but I mean, you limit the picks, and I think you're good.
Yeah, I would say so. And if you have both Kupp and Nakua at the same, I mean, that we're looking more in like the top 20 or the not top 20, but high 20s in touchdowns.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, again, I'll mention they're playing against their old teams, so there's that added fire between the quarterbacks.
Agreed. Which, I mean, I don't know if we've ever talked about on this podcast, but that's got to be one of the best, like most equal trades I've ever seen after the fact.
Oh yeah, just
Rams. Yeah,
just one like for one. They still have players that can lead their offenses.
As in like both teams. Obviously, the Rams get the Super Bowl, but both teams find success afterwards after they flip flop.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy because it seemed like the Lions were never going to find a Super Bowl with Stafford, and yet now they have Goffin, who is arguably worse than Stafford. I mean, I think career-wise, he's definitely not as good as Stafford.
Okay,
but currently, they're almost like close together.
No, I would agree right now.
And yet he's like a game or two away from winning them a Super Bowl.
Right.
We've never even talking about the Lions in the same sentence as a Super Bowl.
Right.
Without saying that they can't possibly ever win one is like an unheard take.
Well, he
I don't think I'd ever say that.
Goff was one half of the NFC Championship game away from taking them to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But like, I think going back, I remember hearing about that trade. I was in my old apartment back in Ames. I remember getting that notification, and I, along with the rest of the NFL world, was like, all right, well, the Rams got way better, and they just shipped off Jared Goff to Detroit and was like, you can waste a couple of years of your career there. Which the first year they weren't. They were bad. They were pretty bad their first year with Dan Campbell. Their second year they get a little bit better, and then last year obviously just one of the better teams in the NFC. So
yeah, and I think that's just new coaches take some time to figure it out. If they're a good coach, you can kind of tell right away. Other ones, when you have what was Matt Patricia? I mean, you're like, why are we giving this dude like 3-4 years on this team? Dan Campbell, you're like, it's okay. First year wasn't that good. It's okay. He'll get there. And here we
are. Yeah, I think mainly because of just especially going into that, be the last thing we can hit for the Lions-Rams game. But with Matt Patricia, he's just one of the Belichick disciples that tries to be Belichick and just can't.
Mm-hmm.
You think of Josh McDaniels, Bill O'Brien, a couple other guys out there. But Dan Campbell came in with this, obviously, bite your kneecaps off mentality. And I think, they gave him some chance because they saw some promising or some promise in there. And I would agree, even though I said that first year they were terrible, I saw that they were, competitive in those games. And he's really brought them to surprisingly be one of the better teams in the NFC. And I agree with you. I can't believe you're talking about them as the Lions as a good team.
Yeah. Someday my Browns are going to be talked like that.
Maybe. Okay, well, they still are a good team. But,
I guess.
Last game of the NFL slate, talk about Jared Goff losing in the NFC Championship game. Who'd he lose to? Is Brock Purdy and the Niners, who are taking on the New York Jets.
With Aaron Rodgers.
With Aaron Rodgers returning, probably the favorite to win Comeback Player of the Year. Your thoughts on this game? I think, a lot of Cyclones on the Jets side, so it'll be kind of a bit of a reunion there.
I know. I mean, gosh, Breece Hall playing against Brock Purdy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Lions-Rams, who you got?
Lions.
I'll take Rams.
Really splitting everything, huh?
Yeah, we have split so far, but that's why we have this show. That's why we have different. If people saw our text messages, they see that our difference is there. So, moving on.
Only if we talk DK.
What's up?
Only if we talk about DK.
Okay. Jets Niners.
This could be interesting.
It could very well be interesting. Niners still. I think this is the year that they should win the Super Bowl for sure. They have virtually one of the same roster from last year. They still have the best roster in the NFL. I know the Chiefs are going for a three-peat, but I think other than them, this is the year the Niners should win the Super Bowl. You're not paying this last year. You're paying Brock Purdy nothing. You got still guys like Nick Bosa, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, other guys, all in their prime basically. This is the year where you got to do it. And the Jets, they return Aaron Rodgers after he only played 4 snaps last year. So it'll be honestly fun to see him play again. And people kind of forget that he's still one of the best quarterbacks in this league. But, people obviously forget that because he didn't play last year.
Yeah, people forget that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, he was a back-to-back MVP.
Yep.
2 years ago, he was still really good. I mean, he got injured, and people are like, well, his career's over. That's it. He's done. Right. He's come off of season-ending injuries before, and he's won MVPs. So, not going to count him out yet. This game could be interesting because as you said, 49ers on paper are probably the best team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have Trent Williams back. They got Brandon Ayuk back. I mean, they were unstoppable last year, and the Jets were not.
But
the Jets got Aaron Rodgers back,
yeah,
which they
and
didn't have last year.
You look at their roster; they still have, I mean, Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall, both young studs in their own right, and then defensively they have probably one of the. I mean, a lot of people are, have been high on them in the past, but I think we forget just how great that defense is that have kept them in games. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if Aaron Rodgers is on that team last year, I think they make the playoffs with how great that defense was.
Yeah, I mean, they were winning games. I mean, they beat the Bills in the opener last season without Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
And I do think Brock Purdy's a really good quarterback, but we've also seen him make some very rough plays.
Mm-hmm.
His preseason was a little rocky.
Yep.
And I think if he isn't careful against the Jets, I could see him throwing a pick or two, and that could really change the momentum of the game.
Yeah, I mean, that defensive line, oh my goodness. I just thought, what if he gets sacked by Will McDonald?
That'd be kind of funny.
It would be. I'm going to have to look actually at the Jets at their depth chart because I still don't know if Will McDonald, I mean, he can't be the starter, right?
He's not the starter. I'm not sure how many snaps he will play, though, because last year he didn't play like most games.
Right. Let's see here. Will McDonald is listed as the second string left side defensive end behind Jermaine Johnson. If you're
not a big Jermaine Johnson fan.
If you're did you say I'm not a Jermaine Johnson fan? No, I am. I'm just saying.
Or you're like, he's never going to see the field.
No, he's not going to see the field when Jermaine Johnson is dominating.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're Brock Purdy, do you really want to go up against this defensive line of Jermaine Johnson, Javon Kinlaw, Quinnen Williams, and Michael Clemens? I'm sorry, I don't really know who you are, but still. And the only reason Michael Clemens is playing is because Hassan Reddick is out with his contract dispute.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the Jets, the Jets' trenches have been pretty good when they're healthy and all playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what we love to see here, though, on Trench Talk. And I think
don't even get me started on Mekhi Becton on the offensive line.
Oh gosh, liability.
He would have been the best offensive lineman of all time. If only he'd stayed healthy.
Am I reading this wrong, or is he? I mean, did I completely forget that he's not on the team anymore?
Becton?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not on the team anymore.
Oh, I completely forgot.
They let him go. He couldn't stay healthy for more than 2 games.
He get picked up?
Probably not.
Would you pick him up?
Nope. He's got dust for knees.
He's on the Eagles now. I forgot about that, actually.
Oh. Well, good luck, Eagles. You're going to have a guy that can play every once a year.
Maybe a couple games. I'm going to Super Bowl window. This is the year for the Niners. I'll say my pick first. Maybe we don't differ here. I'm going to go with the Niners. I also forgot that this is Robert Saleh going up against his former team that he was the defensive coordinator for. But I think it comes down to coaching, scheme. I think, when they have Kyle Shanahan and those weapons, they're going to be able to scheme guys open and a great offense. And it's all about Brock Purdy making those plays because guys are going to be open. And I think he has the capability of doing that. So I'm going to go the Niners on this one.
And I'm going to go the Jets.
Okay. Oh,
because I think Aaron Rodgers is going to play the whole game. I think that could be the game changer. I think he'll throw probably 3 touchdowns. And I do think that the defense is going to make some plays. Yes, the 49ers defense was actually, I want to check something.
we will check.
I'm going to check the 49ers schedule on 23-24.
Well, while you do that, I'll let you know and the viewers know that Mekhi Becton is the starting right guard for the Eagles.
Oh, he's a right guard now, huh?
Well, they must have moved him there. I mean, I know their tackle situation. They're pretty much covered on the tackles because they got Mailata and Lane Johnson. So,
okay. I was looking because I know that the 49ers had questionable losses last year. Because I know the Browns beat them.
That was the Browns beat them. That was during when Purdy wasn't playing great and they were losing games. So really, I hate to say it, but when Purdy doesn't play great, they lose games.
Yeah, and people don't want to hear that because they say system quarterback. But when he plays good, the team does good.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, I feel like I still have to go with the Jets just because I think we're due for an upset in week 1 somewhere. And this seems like the most realistic game for an upset, I want to say. Just because Aaron Rodgers will be playing the whole game, probably.
Let's hope so.
And, the Jets squeaked out wins last year when they shouldn't have. And I think they got the opening win against the Bills last year, and the Bills were definitely better than them. So
I think we both put up solid cases there, but I'll stick with the with the Niners on this one, and I'm currently going through. When the Browns beat the Niners, that started a 3-game losing streak for the Niners, and in those games, Brock Purdy was he completed 62% of his passes for 762 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 5 picks for 77.9 rating. So, and that's when people were low on the Niners. But I think they're going to pull one through on the road, I believe, actually, against the Jets. So,
no, it's at the Niners.
At the Niners. There you go. Santa Clara, W, mark it in. Anyways.
We'll just have to agree to disagree.
I guess on all those games, but let's get to some stuff I won't disagree with you on here are your bets of the week. We each got 4 for you guys. Christian, take it away.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's watched from last season, but maybe you don't want to ride with my bets. I do hit sometimes, and I've got I feel like a pretty safe one to start because we really don't know what to expect. Week 1 bets, be careful writing them.
That's kind of the fun part, though.
I usually don't throw a lot of money down in week 1 just because there's no way to tell.
Yeah.
But I've got, I have Price Picks here in Minnesota. No DraftKings, unfortunately. So only prop bets. I got a 4-leg. I got Najee Harris under 60 because, come on, people are saying that he's just going to randomly be good this year. He has bricks for feet. I don't see him, having a good rushing game.
Right.
I have Justin Jefferson over 93 yards because who else is Sam Darnold going to throw to?
Well, Jordan Addison.
Maybe. Romeo Doubs over 40 passing yards because I just kind of felt like that was going to hit.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta go on vibes. And then Josh Jacobs anytime touchdown.
I
feel like that one doesn't really need to be explained.
No, I think those are all good. Especially Jay Jettas. He's going to hit 93 against the Giants. Najee, they're playing the Falcons. Falcons have a solid defense, so
and they just picked up defensive players in the last few weeks. So I think the Falcons defense is definitely underrated.
Yeah. I'm always scared to ride unders though. I
love unders.
I know you.
People are scared to ride unders, which makes me confident to ride them because I think Vegas is going to make the unders hit more because all you are riding the overs.
I guess so. And then what was it? Dobbs, sure. I mean, probably. Well, 40 is a pretty easy number to hit. If I'm being honest. So
I'm like 3 catches, he'll probably get to 40. I mean, my thing is, I'm just testing out the waters in week 1 and seeing what's gonna stick.
Yeah. I'm kind of just looking at last year. I'm playing it safe with a lot of stuff that would likely hit last year that I'm hoping is going to hit this year. Starting it off, Dak Prescott, more than 2+ touchdowns against the Browns. I think the run game's not going to work. They're going to have to rely on Dak. Maybe I think the Cowboys are going to win, but even if they don't, Dak's going to have to throw the ball a lot, force the ball to guys like Jake Ferguson, Brandon Cooks. Dalvin Cook is still, a decent receiving back. So, see, I'm riding that.
Sure.
You didn't love this, but I think it's going to hit. Mike Evans anytime touchdown. Baker and Mike Evans connected for, I want to say, 13 touchdowns last year, which was either close to the league leading or was tied for the most in the league. So, again, just carrying over stuff that probably likely to hit last year. It's going to hit this year. Commanders defense, not great. Let's be real here. I know they have a defensive coach in Dan Quinn, but I'm riding it. Jahmyr Gibbs, 60+ rushing yards. I had to ask you, I'm like, who do you think? David Montgomery's going to get more carries. Jahmyr Gibbs. We were both kind of thinking Jahmyr Gibbs.
Well, I think Montgomery's going to get more carries, but Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get more yards because I think he has more potential, more talent, more explosiveness.
And that's why I agree. And I go over 60 rushing yards. And the Rams, their defensive line's going to need, obviously, a little shaken up without Aaron Donald there. And then this one's a little aggressive. Josh Allen over 275 passing yards. It just felt right. Cardinals defense, not great. Josh Allen probably going to have to throw the ball a lot. I'm looking at guys like Dalton Kincaid. Who'd they just pick up? Drafted him. What's his name? And from last year, Khalil Shakir.
Khalil Shakir.
But this year they drafted Keon Coleman. There you go.
And they got Curtis Samuel.
So again, testing the waters. This one, do I think he gets close to 300? Hopefully, but I'm riding that. And yeah, that's my 4-pick parlay. But of course, I've also got the singles on those as well because who knows if they'll all hit.
Yeah, I'm not too high up on the Josh Allen one of all of them.
That's okay. That's where we prove the doubters wrong. And Josh Allen has been spending the offseason with his girlfriend, Haley Steinfeld, and she's like, Logan's going to bet plus 275 on you. You need to hit that
in with Haley Steinfeld.
Yep. Yep. I'm trying to think of a Haley Steinfeld way to work in a Haley Steinfeld song, but the only one I know is "Love Myself," which good song. I don't know how to work that in. Love my bets. Take mine over Christian's. Christians aren't hitting. Mine are. He's testing the waters too much. Stick with what you know what works.
Yeah. If you want some WNBA bets, I'm 100% on those so far. So that's the only thing funding my betting habits.
Yeah. Rookie of the Year, Angel Reese. Let me take that.
Yeah. Hey. Nobody's rebounding like her. Come on.
I want to go look at that real quick and see what her odds are because of how many people actually think that she could win. Well, delusional people that think she'll win.
I actually do think she could win.
No.
But not because she's the better player. Because it's not people that watch WNBA that vote on it. It's people that want to push narratives.
I suppose.
So there is a chance that they just vote her as the rookie of the year because the league really does not like Caitlin Clark.
For some reason. I don't honestly, I'm not the biggest, you know me, I'm not the biggest Caitlin Clark fan, but I just don't get it.
You know me, I'm her number one hater. I'm like Kendrick Lamar, and she's like Drake. I'm the biggest hater.
I hate the way that you walk. I can't seem to find her odds. I probably had to have bet it before the season. That makes sense. But no, I'm not a big Caitlin Clark fan. When she was at Iowa, I still think there are some parts of her game that need to be tweaked. I can't believe we're ending trench talk with WNBA, but just saying.
Sorry.
That's no disrespect to the WNBA, but we've just never talked about them yet.
Well, it's also a football podcast, and Caitlin Clark doesn't play football.
That's true.
Actually, we did talk about her last week. I was talking about. Wait, did I? Talking about Keith Murphy and how it's just all.
That's true.
It's
yeah,
all
that's
Caitlin
when you
Clark
threw
talk.
random shade at Keith Murphy.
Yeah. Now I'm Keith Murphy. Jeez. How does she find her way into these news cycles? She's not even doing anything.
Well, they did just clinch the playoffs for the first time in 8 years. But I think
time when you have a team full of first overall draft picks.
But I think we do need to remember. I mean, yeah, they clinched the playoffs. So I'm taking no credit away from them. But I will say, in the WNBA, I believe more than half. Well, it's kind of easy to make the playoffs.
Yeah, this is just the first year in a while they haven't been the worst team in history.
I would agree. Like the Chicago Sky, Angel Reese's team is probably going to make it, and they are 11 games under 500. Am I right on that? I need to. Let's see.
This is unwatchable.
Clinched. I think. Yeah, I think eight teams make the playoffs, and the Chicago Sky are the 8th seed. The Phoenix Mercury are the 7th seed right now, and they're 17-17. The Chicago Sky are 11-22, and they're currently the 8th best team in the league. So.
Yeah, I think I'm done talking about the WNBA.
I think I'm ready for some NFL football tonight.
Yeah, T-minus
7 hours.
8 hours.
7 hours, I want to say.
Just under, right? Yeah.
I guess real quick, we can say our bets for tonight as well. Real quick.
I don't want to say my bets.
Why?
Gotta gatekeep something.
All right.
If I publicly say my bets, they're not gonna hit.
All right. Well, I trust in mine. Pacheco anytime touchdown. Travis Kelce over 5.5 receptions. Patrick Mahomes over 2 passing touchdowns. Derrick Henry anytime. It's hitting tonight. Logan's going to be a rich man.
Yeah, mine's like a plus 4,000, so I don't want to give people out a plus 4,000 because there's no way that's going to hit. But if we come back next week and I'm $1,000 richer, I will give you guys all of my insane bets that rarely hit.
Christian's corner, as we'll call it.
Yeah, Christian's crying corner.
Yep, there you go.
After all my losses.
All right, guys. Well, the NFL season's back. We'll be back here next week to talk about week 1 games. Maybe we'll do an episode Monday or Tuesday, so it's a little bit more newsly, more timely, I should say. Newsly. That's how you know Logan's still waking up, even though it's 12:37. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Trench Talk. Happy NFL.